So Stephanie White is obviously now the coach of the Indiana Fever. And that is a good thing. If you guys agree it's a good thing, subscribe. We're trying to hit 38,400 by the end of the day, and we are only 8 subscribers off. But this is big in my opinion. It's big for Caitlin Clark. It's big for women's basketball. And it is a very, very important season for honestly everyone involved from Indiana. A lot of people thought that the Fever were going to stick with Christy Sides another year because, for example, for Amber Cox, for Kelly Kousroff, if next season didn't go as expected, say they win out of 44, they win 23 games, they're not competing for anything. If that's what happened next season, you could say, oh, it's Christy Sides' fault. It buys them an extra year. But the fact that they fired Sides straight away means they are looking to win soon, and they are extremely confident in winning soon with this cast. But also, we have to take a look at the fact that Caitlin Clark is hyped for this, and also the fact that they have communicated before. So Stephanie White has obviously spoken about Caitlin Clark. This is from the Irish Star. It says obviously here, she now returns to Cambridge about Stephanie White, who, look, is Stephanie White the greatest basketball coach in the world? No. Is Stephanie White even a better coach than Kurt Miller? I've got no idea. But the thing with Stephanie White is she's not come off a season where she was terrible. And she's Indiana. She's Indiana through and through. So nothing's going to happen there. So it says here, the Fever comeback queen Stephanie White has revealed one aspect of Caitlin Clark's character exciting her ahead of the new WNBA season. Former Fever talisman White enjoyed a third act in Indiana after replacing recently sacked Christy Sides in the hot seat. White previously spent 4 years playing for the Fever in the WNBA, later served as team assistant and head coach. However, the second stint shaped up to be far different, and it says here she's already been in touch with her new talisman before they get to work, revealing how one particular trait she loves about the ex-Iowa Hawkeye. I spoke with Caitlin this week, then asked if she'd already been spoken to Caitlin. It's just overall excitement. I've been watching Caitlin play since she's an 8th grader. When I was coaching at the college level and covering her games, just an exciting time for me. I'm very excited working with her on this young team. So, again, it's important that she has communicated straight away with Caitlin Clark. And it's good that there is overall excitement there. And you could see with all these players that there is an excitement there. And one thing that I don't understand why people think this, yes, the Connecticut Sun played puke ball because they were just terrible on offense. They did not have any good offensive players. Alyssa Thomas couldn't shoot the ball. But they still outran Indiana in the playoffs, which is ironic because Indiana played the second fastest pace in the entire WNBA last season. But in the playoffs, it was Indiana who were trying to slow it up, and the Connecticut Sun just ran them off the floor. In game 1 especially. Game 2, Indiana realistically threw that one away. Christy Sides threw that one away. But game 1 was just, I'm not even going to say if it was a masterclass by Stephanie White. Get stops and run isn't a masterclass. It was a disaster class from Christy Sides. But a lot of people are saying, oh, Stephanie White's there. Oh, she's just going to run everything through Aaliyah Boston. Every single thing is going through Caitlin Clark. You are not getting this job. I'm pretty sure Kelly Kousroff has basically said we're running through Caitlin. You do not get this job unless you are running through Caitlin Clark. Aaliyah Boston can play with Caitlin Clark, but Aaliyah Boston is going to become a triple-double, a walking triple-double, for lack of a better word. She's going to be that secondary playmaker. She is the highest IQ center in the entire WNBA. She is one of the best passing centers, and it's like an archetype. I think she's going to have to be almost like she's going to have to start shooting the 3 ball. She's going to have to pass a little bit more. And I think Unrivaled is going to be really, really good for Aaliyah Boston. But Aaliyah Boston's probably going to average 10 points a game next year, especially if they bring in a Satu. She's going to average 10 points a game. But the difference is that she could average 10 points. Let's just say she averages 10 points, 12 rebounds. If she gets better at the old rebounding, 2 blocks a game, which I think she could. Maybe 1.5 to 2 blocks a game. And 5 assists a game from the center position. That's still all-star numbers. That is per 48. If there was 48-minute games, you'd be looking at Aaliyah Boston averaging 12, 14, and 7 assists, which is borderline Demantis Sabonis type. Not quite. He averages a lot more points, but like that type of a role where it's the point center role, where she's not that first, second option, maybe not even the third option, but Leah Boston's going to have to do some other stuff. I also think Caitlin Clark is going to really succeed under Stephanie White. I think Stephanie White is a good coach for her because the goal for Stephanie White is to make Indiana a average defensive team. She did a great job defensively with Connecticut. They lost Jonquel Jones and they barely got worse. She did a really good job there. She did a great job with Dejanay. And I think when it comes to Caitlin, you've just got to trust that Stephanie White is going to make some of the right decisions. And I think the team being so excited and not caring, it seemed, when Christy Sides went, I think the entire team knew how bad a coach Christy Sides was. And I think that there is some excitement there from Caitlin Clark when it comes to just having a WNBA level coach. Yeah, Stephanie White sucked at Vanderbilt. Who cares? I genuinely mean that. Who cares? She was great in the WNBA before Vanderbilt. She was great in the WNBA after Vanderbilt. Who cares? Like, Larry Brown sucked in, was it Charlotte? Doesn't mean he was a bad coach. Doc River, not the right person to bring up, but there are great coaches that have had some stops where they've just been bad. There have been coaches that go to the college game and they really struggle in college, but then suddenly they're great NBA coaches, or vice versa. Great college coaches go to the NBA and they look like they don't know how to coach. You can never judge a coach based on how they are at one position or another, or one place or another, because situation changes everything. But she was awful at Vanderbilt. But like, I'm sorry, just because she was awful at Vanderbilt 4 years ago doesn't mean like all of a sudden that the last 2 years don't matter. But yeah, I think Caitlin's excited. Stephanie White's very excited. She's back in Indiana. And if Stephanie White can put in a system to make them the 8th best defensive team in the W, like out of 13, if they're the 8th best, the Indiana Fever win close to 30 games next year. There are 44 games. There's 4 extra games, which is basically like saying they win like 27 last year. Like, they're going to probably be a top 4 seed, win between 27 and 30 games. And that's all she has to do is just make them a bad defensive team. Like, they were only better last year than the historically bad Dallas Wings. But ironically, when Alyssa Smith was off the floor, they were one of the best defensive teams in the W, which is hilarious. And like, it didn't, like, the Caitlin Clark on-off numbers on defense weren't that different. The Kelsey Mitchell on-off numbers weren't that different. It was literally the Alyssa Smith. And that's the problem when you've got 2 poor perimeter defenders at your 1 and 2. Like, Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell, at best, you can call them average. Like, when Caitlin Clark locks in, she is an average defender. When Kelsey Mitchell locks in, she's an average defender. And Alyssa Smith is the worst defensive player in the entire WNBA. So, getting Alyssa Smith out of that starting lineup with Aaliyah Boston, who's a good defender, with Lexi Hull, who's a good defender, you don't need too much else. You just need some sort of structure so that Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark, who are both smart players, know what they're doing on defense so that they can be hidden a little bit more. And you've got a team that the more stops Indiana get, the more they run, the better they are. So everything's going to start from defense, and the better the team overall will play defense, the better the team's going to be. So yeah, it's good that Stephanie White straight away came out and said, I've talked to Caitlin Clark. I've spoken to Caitlin Clark. She's excited. She's excited to get going. It's kind of good to see Caitlin Clark being super excited after she was not too thrilled with the old Christy Sides coach. Just everything about Christy Sides. And I do think in general that we're going to see probably more behind the scenes criticism of Caitlin Clark and less public criticism of Caitlin Clark. Because Stephanie White, her whole thing was like, when she was talking about Caitlin Clark before she was drafted, she was one of Caitlin Clark's biggest fans in college. But she was like, at the WNBA, it's like basically refining. It's like some of the weak points in her game, trying to minimize some of her weak points, while still making sure that Caitlin Clark is Caitlin Clark. And that's the problem, because obviously Christy Sides wanted Caitlin Clark to not be Caitlin Clark, which was a huge issue. But anyway, yeah, that's the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.